And we're back.
Welcome back to Cosmic Comics for 4th round FNM Magic.
This is the final round of tonight's tournament.
Final round before we cut to the top 8. And so we're going to be seeing last week's champion, Nick Delaney, playing the same mono black deck that we saw last week against Alex. And I'm not too sure what Alex is on tonight.
No idea.
So we're in for a little surprise. All right, so yeah, like I talked to Nick a little bit about his deck to see if he had updated anything, and the only major change that he made is he took out one of the main deck Lifebane zombies and switched it over for Mogus Marauder, which had such a huge impact that we saw last Friday, where it just won games for him out of stale boards. Because that's the thing is, when you have aggro on aggro, you get a bunch of small creatures staring at each other. Just let them break through every time. So when they increase that draw a little bit in the main.
Sounds good. And see, I thought that just from watching the Channel Fireball videos that I watched, that Mogus Marauder was a slam 4 of in that deck. So to hear that he's going from 2 to 3 surprised me quite a bit, especially considering how often we saw him in the games that we saw him in.
Yes. And part of it is it's a little clunky, like it's a Grey Ogre with haste in a lot of situations where the evasion isn't as important. So you want to be able to have the little bigger creatures that do a lot more damage. Because if you're giving a bunch of mediocre creatures, haste and intimidate, it's not nearly as exciting. And mono black, the more traditional mid-rangey mono black, is still a very big part of the metagame too. Mm-hmm. So you're going to feel bad if you know Mogus Marauder and there's a bunch of Desecration Demons and Pack Rats on the other side.
That's very true.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how Nick's deck continues to play out and see how it pairs up against our mystery deck of Alex.
All right, let's get this started.
So we see Nick Delaney on the right and Alex on the left, and Nick sporting the beautiful pink sleeves, typically what I sport myself when I play.
And always Dragon Shields for him, am I right?
Oh yeah, well those are the best.
Starting with a Thoughtseize, so we see that's an Underworld Cerberus,
so
a Drown in Sorrow, 2 Drown in Sorrow.
And Anger the Gods, it looks like.
What card is...
I think the card on the very top is Anger the Gods.
Oh, that's an Underworld Cerberus that's on the bottom of the lands, right?
Yeah, that's the Underworld Cerberus. We see lands, and there's 2 of the same card under the Anger the Gods.
That's the Drown in Sorrow.
That's the Drown in Sorrow.
The new Infest with Scry.
Perfect. Yeah, so we're definitely seeing a kind of control-y deck in black-green for Alex here. And so he takes the Cerberus, which I think is probably the right choice here. Although Anger the Gods could create a problem with the board sweeping.
Yeah, those cards are all good against Nick. So Nick's plan is going to have to be deploy 1 threat, ride it until his opponent deals with it, which he doesn't want to do.
Yeah, but that's a good reason to take the Cerberus as well, because as you can see, aside from the mass removal spells, there's no real action in Alex's hand after that Cerberus goes away. It's all very responsive.
No, Alex is going to have to decide if he gets just the Pain Seer with his sweepers on turn 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and you see Nick definitely choosing, we see Rakdos Crackler is one of the main ones that I can see him choosing not to cackle down.
He also had the Mogus Marauder, and Rakdos Cackler Mogus Marauder works really well on 4 mana, because the Marauder also gives haste.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So he can get sweeped here, get in for 4, and then get sweeped again, and then he just has 1 more sweeper to get through.
Absolutely. That does sound...
It's a hard life, but sometimes you just got to put that plan together. Yeah, and so we see the coming in for 4 here.
And Spiteful Returned and Herald of Torment will also let Nick put more power on the board. That
Absolutely.
is a Madcap skills in Alex's hand.
Interesting.
Anger of the Gods, wiping the board again.
Yep.
Like we knew was coming. So that leaves him with 1 Drown in Sorrow in his hand and what looked like a Madcap skills.
Yep, and then... Yeah, it looks... What do we got there? Is that a hero?
That's a Marauder.
Yeah, it's the Mogus Marauder. They're coming in for 2 more. And Nick hoping once again that just eat that last removal spell, and then...
Nick has done a real good job of being aggressive.
Yeah, well, being patiently aggressive too, where he's not just spitting out his whole board and losing it to 1 removal spell.
Exactly, and all of his creatures have done damage.
And I guarantee you, if he hadn't had Thoughtseize, Nick would be out of this game and not competing. Like, that's how valuable just understanding what your opponent has available to do.
Slams the Herald of Torment, gets in for 5.
Yeah, that Herald puts it out of range of the removal spells that we've been seeing. And so I believe I saw a Doomblade in Alex's hand, though, so that's not particularly helpful
so
here.
Not so good in this matchup, no.
And so,
That looks like, I'm going to assume that's a Labyrinth champion? No, it has counters on it. No idea what this card is. Something that unleashed for 4 mana. Blood Fray Ogre?
but it looks like it's a red card, though.
Yeah, the Ogre's red.
Okay.
It's a 4/3 with Unleash for 4, I think.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but we see that he also has the Rakdos
Keyrune.
Keyrune as well, which for black-red can turn into a 3/1 first striker.
Yeah, so it looks like Alex has the ability to swing for 8, take Nick down to 9, and then die shortly afterwards. So he scoops him up, gets ready for game 2.
Yeah, and we saw from Nick, it was just, it's all crafted from knowing what he had to play around and knowing how to play out his threats so he could be taken the least advantage of by those sweepers that are all about creating card advantage.
Okay, so you main board Anchor of the Gods and Drown in Sorrow. You draw 3 of them and you die on turn 6.
Yeah, it's a little
How
demoralizing.
do you sideboard here?
Did you bring another 75?
You take out the Doomblades. Easily you take out the Doomblades, and hopefully you're bringing in
Visium Mortars,
or Dreadbores,
or a Bile Blight would be very useful in this matchup.
Devour Flesh.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of removal options here, but
Freak is Cure. That's what he's really
that's a beautiful. So yeah, I mean, we're seeing that Alex has the type of deck that you want against this mono black deck. It's just he didn't quite do enough.
So what kind of threats could Alex deploy that Nick would have a really hard time dealing with?
That is interesting. I believe that was a madcap skill that we saw, so it makes you really wonder what type of threats he's had, because we saw no threats aside from the Cerebus that game. So I mean, we're assuming he's not going to be just playing a bunch of small creatures of his own.
We also saw what I think was Blood Fray Ogre, Blood Fray Giant, an Unleash card.
Yeah, we saw a very large Unleash card. But yeah, so it'll be interesting. Yeah, Alex has me off guard. I'm not sure,
But there isn't a big black fatty with lifelink right now, is there?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Desecration Demon is something that I would expect to see in this deck. Because with those big board sweepers, he's a big guy that survives those sweepers, and then you can't really tap him down if you just got your board swept. I mean, I'm just trying to think of the traditional things of, Rakdos Return is a big thing that you'd see from that deck as a win condition without necessarily having to have a board presence.
So Alex is hoping to, I think, draw more Freakish Cures.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's something that gives you removal in, that little extra life gain just to negate basically that attack.
Because he was going to have, what's that? That's 8 plus the Rakdos Keyrune is 11 power on the board.
Yeah, and that Keyrune's going to be a big problem because that first strike is a huge deal, and until Nick starts bestowing, his guys just can't even imagine getting through that.
And Keyrune does a really good job of surviving your own board wipes.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about Keyrune as well is Bogus Marauder doesn't get past him because he's black-red. Black-red and an artifact, so he can block 2 separate ways.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, so that is an interesting solution to the Bogus Marauder as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if he's going just mostly spells and it's going to be the Keyrune, the Ogre that we saw, and not very many other threats.
Oh, the big life gain spell the black has is Grey Merchant, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but that is definitely not a devotion to black type of deck.
That's true, seeing
at.
our double red 4-drops.
Yeah. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out and what the plan with the Cerebus is, besides just being big and scary and hard to block.
Big and scary and hard to block.
All right, well, let's see what adjustments they've made for Game 2 here.
Gonna fire it up. Alex gets to go first, and he starts with the Blood Crypt, which will enter tapped.
And basic Swamp for Nick with the pass as well, despite the large number of 1-drops in his deck.
That is a Thrill Kill Assassin entering Unleashed.
So that's a 2/3 Death Touch that can't block now?
Correct. Tormented Hero.
Yeah, so I think we might have just sent the anomalous hand of just board sweepers from Alex.
Especially because after this attack for 2, he's going to play a Hellhole Flailer.
Yeah, which is who I thought you were referencing in that last game, who's one of my favorite Unleash cards and one of my favorite cards in general in that Return to Ravnica limited format.
So it's a 4/3 for 3, and does it cost 3 or 4 to sacrifice
I
it?
believe it's black-red, going through all my colors. I believe it's black-green too.
Black-red too?
Black-red too.
Okay.
So yeah, it's still okay to get the colors, right?
And you sacrifice it to deal damage to target player equal to his power.
Power, yes.
So it'll be 4 damage that he can throw when he feels like it.
Exactly, and that's the thing, that you can sack 8 damage right there. Like, that's a big chunk. And
There's the Tormented Hero for Nick.
oh no, I believe that's the Herald.
Herald of Torment.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of pain and suffering going on in Nick's deck. Pain Seers, Tormented Folk of all ilks.
So wait, Nick has the Herald of Tormented Hero in play?
Yeah, I mean, well, they're not really together yet, but I think when you Voltron them together, that's what we got going. We see a Dreadbore onto that Herald.
And then the attack for 6.
Yep, and there's no good block for Nick here.
There's not. Both of his creatures have 3 toughness.
Yep. So yeah, you see him just chumping the 4 damage. And ooh, looks like he has another one of him in his hand as well. So Alex has a lot of pressure here. Kind of makes me wonder, though, why we saw the board sweepers game 1, why we see the aggressive creatures here game 2.
It could be that he has 3.
It could be
Or it
transformative as well.
Could be transformative.
He goes control, and then if he sees, hey, I'm in a place where my big creatures can be bigger, can race, I'm going to sideboard to make it that way.
Another attack for 2. Thrill Kill Assassin is a boss.
Yep. And I think... so he's got some options here in hand.
So this will be the Hell Flailer. It looks like he
Nope. Oh, he's
what
going
was that?
Key Rune into Flailer.
Key Rune into Flailer. So he's got 1 card left in his hand, and it's the Bloodfray Giant.
Yeah, and this is
Bloodfray Ogre.
exactly, and this is into Nick Delaney's completely empty board, which Nick is more or less an all-in aggro deck.
So
We see the Herald again coming down.
and that can trade with our Hellhole Flailer or with the Thrill Kill Assassin. But that means he's taking at least 5 this turn. There was another Dread board drawn by Alex.
Ooh, yeah. So yeah, this game's quickly getting away from Nick Delaney. So we see, yeah, the perfect draw of, because we saw Alex not only have removal here, but really curve out with his creatures as well.
Swing for 6, play a 5-power guy.
And then he passes back with a whole bunch of unblocking guys.
And Nick says that'll be good enough.
Yep. Yeah, that's a ton of pressure on that board. So it's interesting to see what Alex's deck actually does.
Yeah, that was very, very different from game 1.
Exactly.
So you said bring a new 75. It looks like that's what he did.
Yeah, apparently is a little clairvoyance on my side.
Fabulous, truly fabulous.
Yeah, so yeah, it looks like it's going to be much more of the aggro versus aggro where Nyx is a little more aggressive, but you're going to see a little more control coming out of Alex.
So what do you think of Alex needing to make the decision whether or not his creatures can block all game? Because everything we saw had Unleash.
Yeah, but we were seeing that he was able to, that gives you some versatility. Like typically you feel like you always want to Unleash, but there are times where, you have the Chainwalker, the 2/1.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't need a 3/2 on turn 2. Sometimes you just need a 2/1 that can trade with the hero. And so it gives you versatility.
And we have the Thrill Kill Assassin and the Hellhole Flailer and the Bloodfray Giant will all trade or beat any of Nick's creatures in combat.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what we saw at game was in response to the fact that Alex had some removal in his hand. We saw a couple Dreadbores come out. So we know that, if you have the backup, you can be a little more aggressive with your unleashing. But I think it is very easy to get into automatically unleashing, not thinking about it. But it is important to really consider that versatility.
So both games so far were clearly whoever was on the play bowled over their opponent.
Yeah.
Nick gets to be on the play for game 3. So let's see if that holds true again.
Yeah. So let's go into this game. And I think one of the big things that we see for Nick is Intimidate's a big part of his strategy. Is that I'm very sure that he took out his Lifebane zombies because they're very, very clunky in a place where their Intimidate doesn't do anything and the Creature Steal doesn't do anything.
So I think Alex kept a hand with 2 Exavas in it.
Safa's a legend, isn't it?
She is a legend. She's also, if she's alive, that's very good. So
That
her
is
being
very
a legend is okay. Painseer for Nick on turn 2. I see a Dark Betrayal, a Herald of Torment. I don't know what the other cards in Nick's hand were, and that is a Ratchet Bomb.
And it's going up. So it'll be interesting to see the play that Ratchet Bomb creates where it makes Nick Delaney think a little more about his plays, and Alex has to think about when he wants to take it up and what the magic number for him is going to be. But we'll definitely see it to 2, and then at 3, he has to kind of decide if he wants to go to 3 or if he wants to deal with 2 drops. So he's going up to 2 here.
Which makes sense, because there aren't any 1-drops on
And
the board.
I did see an Anger the Gods, but I don't know if we have the land to follow it up, unfortunately.
It appears as though they missed the Herald of Torment's -1 life trigger.
Yeah. Oh no, it looks like Nick just hadn't taken it off yet.
No, he did that from drawing the Thoughtseize off the Painseer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it looks like you are correct. They did miss the point on that.
So we've got 2 Exavas, a Dead Reveler,
Yeah.
Drown in Sorrow, a Bloodfray Ogre, and an Anger of the Gods.
Yeah, I believe you are correct there.
Can't tell if the bottom one's a Bloodfray Ogre.
Yeah, it is interesting seeing the Dread Reveler here constructed as well, which is the 2/3 for black 2 that unleashes to become a 3/4 that can't block, which is a very hefty body.
Now, Nick is looking at that hand knowing I'm not going to play Spiteful Return to this turn.
Yeah. Yeah,
So my hunch is that he's going to take one of the Sweepers. Oh, maybe he does play. Oh, he's taking an Exava.
yeah, because Nick's deck doesn't have a lot of removal.
Oh, that's a Thrill Kill Assassin?
Yeah, I think that bottom card is a Thrill Kill Assassin. Yeah, so he takes the Anger of Gods, leaving the Drowned in Sorrow as the sweeper.
Thoughtseize him again.
Yep.
If he took one Sweeper, he's probably taking the other one this
I know, he took another...
He took an Exava.
That's interesting.
He's probably hoping his opponent's not going to sweep this turn.
Yeah, and keep in mind that all of this is also Nick taking damage for each of these Thoughtseizes as well, which, you know, is very relevant in a game where they're essentially just racing each other and not playing with each other too much.
Thankfully, Alex dresses him, so we get to look at Nick's hand.
And so
It's
we see
a
that.
Dark Betrayal, Spiteful Return, Herald of Torment.
So he takes a Dark Betrayal. It looked like on Nick's insistence.
I think Alex was like, no, I don't want that Dark Betrayal, I'll take the other one.
Exactly. One's got, you know, a little bit of wear on the edges. You don't want to have the nice one in hand.
Oh, of course. Pops their Agile Bomb, so Nick has an empty board.
Yeah, and then we see the Herald coming down to reapply the pressure.
And Herald of Torment survives Drown in Sorrow.
That is correct. Yeah, and it's got the flying, so it doesn't have to worry about like a thrill kill, for instance, being able to just sit there and keep him from attacking. And Nick did take his damage off of the Herald this time.
That's nice.
And we see that it's going to be...
Bestowed with a Spiteful Return.
Yep, and Spiteful Return is that card that we saw so much before. It's the 1/1 that whenever it becomes tapped, they lose 2 life. So it really increases that clock. So it's basically 6 every swing.
Flyer's coming in for 6 every swing. That Dead Reveler is also coming in for 6 every swing.
Yeah, as he's added the Madcap skills to it.
Nick does win this race. No, he doesn't, because Herald of Torment will do 2 damage to him in the amount of time we have.
Yeah, I believe the legend in Alex's hand has haste as well, does it not?
It does, but that requires a 4th mana, and he was stuck on 2 for a while, just hit the 3rd one.
That is correct. And
I have it's a 2-drop, so it's either a Painseer or a Spiteful Return, I believe. Whatever it is, its job is to block the Dead Reveler.
yeah, it's not a Pack Rat, because the other 2-drop is Pack Rat, but it's definitely not the art on Pack Rat. Yeah, it's a little tricky to see through the glare, but yeah, the game's going to develop here that we'll have a winner very quickly, so it's not going to be overly relevant.
And whatever that card is, I suspect its job is to chump block.
Exactly.
It can't chump block.
That is right, because he needs 2 blockers.
That's correct. So Nick needs a plan to not die during his next upkeep.
Yeah, yeah. And we saw the Dark Betrayal in his hand, so I believe does he have one left?
Yes, if one of them got taken.
Yeah, so I believe he does still have that Dark, and there it is. So, and that's going to lead to Nick winning this game on the crackback.
All right.
So we got the handshake on that game.
So, as is probably not that uncommon in these hyper-aggressive aggro mirrors, the winner of the game, or the winner of the roll wins the game. Yeah,
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, playing first in an aggressive deck is so important because you get to set the tempo and the entire game they're left reacting to you, as you're clearly spelling out for us.
As I was word vomiting. Thank you. Yeah, love Nick's deck. Really impressive to see it fight through as many sweepers as it did.
Yeah, because that was a deck that had sweepers and just creatures that are bigger than his to race, and they're not have no interest in blocking, so it's clear that they want to race. You know, there's no question about complicated combat steps. It's I attack, next turn you can attack.
So we got to see the Mad Cat skills being relevant. It didn't get the job done, but being relevant.
Yeah,
we can assume that Nick brought in Gift of Ursova, because that's why it's here, is to win these mirror matches.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it also didn't rear its ugly head.
Yeah, and Nick was able to win without, but yeah, that's definitely a difference maker that comes out of the board. And we saw the huge impacts that it had in other games, including that pack rat that mysteriously survived and then got to fly over some people last week.
Right. In the round that they drew. So.
Yeah, the round that they drew, but...
Okay, so we know then that Nick made the top 8.
Yep.
We know that Dane made the top 8. It looks like Jaws made the top 8. Not sure who all else was there. We'll have a list for
Yeah,
you.
we can grab the list. But yeah, and one of the things that we continue to see here, week in and week out, is a real diversity of decks. Is that, we saw a mono green monsters. We saw Esper mid-range aggressive deck.
Mm-hmm.
We saw mono black super aggressive. We saw black red unleash.
Black Red Unleashed.
We saw a big variety of different decks, and not everything that's on the tip of everybody's tongue is the decks that you're expecting to see.
Okay, so we have our top 8 list here. Alex made it. He's going to be playing against Dane. Ty Visser will be playing against Rosie Crow. Philip Ortega will be playing against Gary Goki, and Jaws will be playing against Nick Delaney. So we'll have the Nick and Jaws matchup for you guys in 15 minutes, I think. Tune in around 10 o'clock, and we'll have that up for you.
Yeah, we'll definitely be seeing some red zone action in a little bit here.
Absolutely. All right, so we're heading off, and we'll see you then.